We'll begin at 8:02. We'll begin. Archana ji, would you start reading from here? Indian civilization, on the contrary.
Yeah. Indian civilization, on the contrary, made it its chief aim to minimize the incidents and disaster of war. For this purpose, it limited the military obligation to the small class who, by their birth, nature, and traditions, were marked out for this function, and found in it their natural means of self development through the flowering of the soul in the qualities of courage, disciplined force, strong helpfulness, and chivalrous nobility, for which the warrior's life, pursued under the stress of a high ideal, gives a field and opportunities. The rest of the community was in every way guarded from slaughter and outrage. Their life and occupations were as little interfered with as possible, and the combative and destructive tendencies of human nature were given a restricted field, confined in a sort of lists, so as to do the minimum amount of harm to the general life of the race, while at the same time, by being subjected to high ethical ideals and every possible rule of humanity and chivalry, the function of war was obliged to help in ennobling and elevating instead of brutalizing those who performed it. It must be remembered that it was war of this kind and under these conditions that the Gita had in view. War considered as an inevitable part of human life, but so restricted and regulated as to serve, like other activities, the ethical and spiritual development which was then regarded as the whole real object of life. War destructive within certain carefully fixed limits of the bodily life of individual men, but constructive of their inner life and of the ethical elevation of the race. That war was in the past, that war in the past has, when subjected to an ideal, helped in this elevation, as in the development of knighthood and chivalry. The Indian ideal of the Kshatriya, the Japanese ideal of the samurai, can only be denied by the fanatics of pacifism. When it has fulfilled its function, it may well disappear, for if it tries to survive its utility, it will appear as an unrelieved brutality of violence, stripped of its ideal and constructive aspects, and will be rejected by the progressive mind of humanity. But its past service to the race must be admitted in any reasonable view of our evolution.
Right. Thank you. So, nothing very difficult in this. Just basically taking from the last paragraph that we read, and especially the end portion of it, wherein he says that even the minister of religion, salaried by the state, is finding himself on the battlefield and becoming a butcher of men. Excuse me. So, contrasting that with the Chatur Varnya that was in place, I had shared on the group today some quotations regarding the Chatur Varnya as discussed in the last session. So, we'll just begin this paragraph. Indian civilization, on the contrary, made it its chief aim to minimize the incidents and disaster of war. Contrary to the European civilization, where basically they've not found a way to get out of this, and which is why जिसको बोलते हैं military industrial complex. So at least America's economy to a large extent depends on that. They make weapons and then they create the markets for that. If the market is not there, then they instigate wars in other countries. They create unrest in other countries so that there is a civil war or some kind of war, and then they can sell their weapons. This is the ugly reality. I mean, the term that is used for this by experts on the internet is military industrial complex. So they are still, as a civilization, basically, to overcome this. Individuals here and there, communities here and there may have done it, but as a civilization, the Western Hemisphere basically has not been able to overcome this. Okay. India, on the contrary, made it its chief aim to minimize the incidents and disaster of war. Right. For this purpose, it limited the military obligation to the small class who, by their birth, nature, and traditions, all of them. So we find examples were marked out for this function and found in it their natural means of self-development through the flowering of the soul, so on it goes. So, which is why, birth, nature, and traditions, वो ठीक है, but that is why they were always wanting to have a successor because it was their duty. हर एक वर्ण के लिए होगा, but especially in this varna, because if your life itself is at risk, then what are you going to do? And this class of people, it was their duty to protect the lives of men, right? Nature and traditions and so on. And the other part, which is not mentioned here in this paragraph, that of administration. So proper administration, that of a king. So we find, I mean, kings so sincere. For example, Bharat, जो महाभारत के उसके अंदर he is the ancestor. So he does not find any of his sons as adequate for the post of the king. So I think he gets, मुझे नाम नहीं याद आ रहा है अभी, but some rishi's son he installs on the throne, like that. So basically the sense of duty, that is, of course, military and administration both went together. Here the military part is being covered. We marked out for this function and found in its natural means of self-development through the flowering of the soul. The flowering of the soul happens through how? The qualities of courage, disciplined force, strong helpfulness, and chivalrous nobility, for which the warrior's life, pursued under the stress of a high ideal, gives a field and opportunities. We see this in the shlokas where Arjuna is speaking. So, he knows that it is his duty, but he's confused as to how can this massacre further the cause of dharma, like that. So the rest of the community was in every way guarded from slaughter and outrage. Their life and occupations were as little interfered with as possible, and the combative and destructive tendencies of human nature were given a restricted field. So look at the wisdom. So it is understood that these tendencies are there in the human nature. So you give them a restricted field to a certain class of people, or those who are maybe not born in that sense, but their nature is like that. So for example, Chandragupta Maurya, he was not born as a Kshatriya. Chanakya saw something in him. He was born not as a Kshatriya, but he picked him up and he raised him into a warrior and a king. Okay, he made him into that. So, given a restricted field, confined in a sort of lists, so as to do lists, money, the meaning I think that is most suitable here, to enroll example as soldiers. So, armies basically, those formations. So, to enroll basically. Yeah. list so as to do the minimum amount of harm to the general life of the race, while at the same time, by being subjected to high ethical ideals and every possible rule of humanity and chivalry, the function of war was obliged to help in, ennobling and elevating instead of brutalizing those who performed it. So this was there at the back of the mind. Okay, the purpose of everything is to ennoble and elevate you, to evolve you somehow, ethically, spiritually, morally, whatever. But life has a higher purpose, like we read in the previous paragraph. Okay, nor did it consider man primarily as a social being. This is the mistake that modern society is, making more than it is not making it. So this is the idea which tends to dominate, that you are a social being who has to fit into the social machine. But that is not the enlightened idea of humanity or society. Social being or the fullness of his social existence but rather as a spiritual being in process of formation and development, which is why, we are discussing Chaturvarnya here partly, but the other three pairs of four quartets. So other two, I should say, not three. So Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha. So they are Purusharthas. They are recognized as the things that you are supposed to do in life, and you know, and the Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. So the whole life is organized in such a way. This is the wisdom of the Indian culture, that it leads to the formation and development of your spiritual being. It aids in your spiritual growth and development. And also, it is understood that, except for exceptional cases, it cannot happen in one lifetime. So, Bahu Nam Janmanam Ante, the Gita says, Gnanavan Mam Prapadyate. So, of course, now with Mother and Sri Aurobindo's great effort, things are faster, but still, one has to be patient. In the Synthesis of Yoga, he says unflinching patience. That is what is required for the integral aim of yoga. Right? 1 second. Some few more people have joined. I just want to see who's there. Okay. Okay. So it must be remembered that it is war of this kind and under these conditions that the Gita had in view. War considered as an inevitable part of human life, but so restricted and regulated as to serve, like other activities, the ethical and spiritual development. So the purpose of war even was, now it's funny, no? How can war make you develop spiritually? Because spirituality the meaning that we understand is non-violence and not hurting, feeling love and oneness, peace, etc. But this is the paradox, this is the contradiction which the Gita resolves. That no, even if for the sake of dharma, even if you have to slaughter those who are in the wrong, who are tyrannical, right? That accumulation of bad Kshatriya power, as Sri Aurobindo says elsewhere, at the time of the Mahabharata, that selfless service to dharma and to the divine, it is the selfless nature of that service which will make you evolve to a higher level of consciousness. So it's not the action that matters, it is the spirit and consciousness behind the action which matters, right? All this will come in the subsequent text. So which was then regarded as the whole real object of life. At present, it is not the case. It is not spiritual development which is regarded as the whole real object of life, right? It is material development, success, material success, how much money.
Anmol,
That.
this one major plank or anchor that they're saying that our philosophy is towards the spiritual development.
Yeah.
So everything is to be seen as that lens and not through the
Ethical
social,
and
etc.
spiritual. Here the phrase that he's using is ethical and spiritual development.
Ethical and spiritual, right? And the if you see the current trend of the social fabric, abundance, prosperity, a well-being, a social equanimity, that seems
Artha
to
and
be
Kama. Among the four Purusharthas, the
right.
stress is on the first two, Artha and Kama. Artha meaning money, Kama meaning desires, pleasure. But Dharma and Moksha, but by whatever means, you should get prosperous. That is like the dominating idea.
Yeah. So the reason I brought this up is that if you see the discussion, the part that if you go on the spiritual path, then you will be abstaining from these two aspects of artha and kama, or you will not be successful in artha and kama.
Not
If you see the
necessarily.
texts, whatever,
You can have a.
correct. I'm saying that, right.
Yes, please go
If
ahead.
you could just elaborate on that why is it that it's this or the other? I mean,
It's not like
why
that.
is that?
It's not like
It's
that.
not like
Sri Aurobindo especially is not like that. There is his book called The Mother. Okay. In the fourth chapter of that book, small book, The Mother, it is on money. And he says that it is the duty of the sadhak to earn the money power back for the divine. So it is not at all the case that it is this or that. ये मे बी रहा, this was there actually, you are right. So spiritual people, जैसे I heard somewhere that जो गुरु लोग होते थे, so they would not even touch currency notes, because it is polluted with all these desires and all. So their poor shishyas had to do the job of doing that, carrying money and all. So, but that is the wrong attitude towards money. Sri Aurobindo says that artha has to be conquered back for the divine. But yes, if you are in the spiritual this thing, then when that starts becoming dominant, then you don't give so much importance to, yeah, correct, ascetic shrinking. You do not give so much importance to artha and kama. Kama के बारे में भी, by the way. So धर्मा विरुद्धो भूतेषु कामोस्मि भरतर्षभ. गीता में ही आता है. I am desire that is unopposed to dharma. Okay. So that again you have to see कि मतलब exactly what kind of, I mean, it depends. बहुत सारा कुछ हो सकता है. But so
the
it's
only
not
reason I
this,
brought this up
it's
was
not
because,
this or that. It's not this or that. But
right,
in modern times में, because of, see, there is a lot of admixture. जब गीता लिखी गई थी, 5,000 years ago, whatever. Since then, the world has changed. I mean, a lot. क्या बोले मतलब, we can't even estimate how much. And all this mixture, basically, if you read the synthesis, तो उसमें वो कहते हैं ना, this cauldron of Medea on the first page. Everything is getting mixed. So one of the biggest problems in today's times is this mixture of Western civilization and Indian civilization. So their value system is coming into us. Ours is also going there, but because it is easier to be more enamored of the lower things than of the higher. So, and obviously to rise higher, you have to make more effort. So to follow the Western ideal of simply running after Artha and Kama is easier. So Indians are also, copying that. And it's not so much India and West
right,
also. India, maybe all this was there. There were ages of absolute
right,
materialism and all. So you cannot blame it all on the West. But as such, matlab, there is no dichotomy. It's just grade wise hell. So according to the stage of your life. So if you're a brahmachari, you are
right,
focused on, learning. Then if you're a grahastha, you're focused on artha and kama. Then you start withdrawing and you focus more on the spiritual freedom like that. But all were given their respective importance. That is, the ideal way to go about it.
right. Thanks.
Basically, yeah. Most welcome. So what? Bodily life of individual men, but constructed. Sorry, which was then regarded as the whole real object of life, ethical and spiritual development. So, as students of the Gita, this is the change we should bring in our attitude and orientation of nature and everything. That ethical and spiritual development should be the main purpose, rather than just economic development or material development, because the spiritual development is carried forward. I mean, in a very practical sense. The material development and all is not carried forward. That I'm saying just in a very common way जो बोला जाता है. But I mean, that is what it is. That is what the Gita teaches, that it is the divine who is the center of everything, and it is he whom we must pursue. And by the way, if one does pursue spiritual development and ethical development, then the artha and the rightful kama, that also comes to one. There are, like for example, I'll tell you, again, not one should not take it in a wrong way, but the word rishi. Okay, so the dhatu of that, sorry, is a ri dhatu. Richati Gita mein aata hai, attain. So the English word rich, sorry, R-I-C-H, which in turn comes from the French word riche, R-I-C-H-E. In one of Sri Aurobindo's writings, I'll share it. It comes from the Sanskrit word rishi. So rishi was the one who had attained. And when this definition of rishis was given, at that time the rishis were not paupers or anything. They were having prosperous ashrams. Yajnavalkya ka, there is a famous story from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad where so many of these cows with their horns laden with gold. He defeats these people in the debate and he just takes them home like that. So I mean to say, कि if one follows the real object of life, which is ethical and spiritual development, the rest tends to follow. अगर और ज्यादा इस पे dwell नहीं करेंगे, but basically लक्ष्मी जो है वो जैसे normally दिखाते हैं, not in a anti-feminist sense or anything, वो तो उसकी दासी है. माया जो है वो तो ब्रह्म की दासी है in that sense. तो अगर आपने ब्रह्म को प्राप्त कर लिया, विष्णु को प्राप्त कर लिया, तो लक्ष्मी तो अपने आप आएगी, like that. Again, not to be taken in a wrong way, just for the sake of understanding. He is the king of kings and everything. So if he is attained, everything comes, automatically follows. Okay? So war destructive within certain carefully fixed limits of the bodily life of individual men, but constructive of their inner life. So क्या लिखा है? And of the ethical elevation of the race. Destructive of the bodily life. Destructive of the bodily life, but constructive of their inner life. हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम तस्माद् उत्तिष्ठ कौन्तेय युद्धाय कृतनिश्चयः. So if you die, हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम, you attain to heaven, because virgati, you have lost your life for the cause of dharma, right? This is what the Kshatriyas wanted. They did not want a death just like that. They wanted virgati on the battlefield. Hato va prapsyasi swargam, jitva va bhokshase mahim. And if you win, this is how Krishna tries to convince Arjuna. If you win, then you enjoy the earth. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya, very powerful verse. Therefore, rise, O Kaunteya. Tasmad uttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchaya, having resolved to fight. And this can be applied to the war of life, the day-to-day battles that we are having in our life, right? So that war in the past, but constructive of the inner life, sorry, and of the ethical elevation of the race. That war in the past has, when subjected to an ideal, helped in this elevation, this ethical elevation, even this spiritual elevation. So, I mean, just अभी मैंने बोला हतो वा प्राप्स्यसि स्वर्गम जित्वा वा भोक्ष्यसे महीम. So in one of the later chapters, I think the 8th chapter, so he says कि they attain to the worlds of the righteous and having dwelt there for some time, but when the kshine punya martya lokam vishanti, but your forward progress goes on. This is the, when you follow dharma, when you follow the shastra, instead of running away from your duty or doing as you like, that does not help to evolve. Most people, I mean, you could say, अगर 100% में से लें तो I don't know, man, 99, more than 99% people are those who need to be governed by the Shastra if they are to evolve. If they just pretend कि मैं तो अपने अंदर वाले शास्त्र से गाइड हो रहा हूँ, it's my inner guru who is guiding me. There are exceptional cases like Sri Aurobindo, Sri Ramakrishna, etc., who can do that. Otherwise, you need the dominating power of a shastra like the Gita or Synthesis of Yoga or some such great, genuine spiritual book to govern your life. Otherwise, the real progress does not happen. In fact, the Gita 16th chapter ke end mein, he says, who does not follow the shastra, he does not get anything. Tasmat shastram pramanante karya karya vyavasthito. Therefore, following the shastra, you decide what is to be done and what is not to be done. Like that. Towards the end, I'll share that verse. Okay? So that war in the past has been subjected to an ideal, helped in this elevation, as in the development of knighthood and chivalry. What we read in history or we see in some of these historical movies and all, or serials and all. The Indian ideal of the Kshatriya, the Japanese ideal of the samurai, can only be denied by the fanatics of pacifism. So, it's you don't want to see. You're fanatical about pacifism. Ki no. At any cost, I should not hurt anybody. And in fact, Sri Aurobindo himself, because he had, retired from political life and come to Pondicherry, and through the Uttarpada speech, so many people came to know that he was into yoga and all. So naturally, yoga people think that he's a saint. So what has he got to do with violence? This, that. So he kind of made a declaration. वो एक लेटर में है उनके कि Sri Aurobindo is not a pacifist or an impotent something ऐसे करके. So nothing of the sort. In fact, मैंने एक पहले उसमें बोला था, his disciples actually went and joined in the First World War and Second World War. He sent money to the British government to fight in the Second World War. मतलब he supported the Allies. Evident, मतलब एकदम clearly. I mean, but when it has fulfilled its function, okay, so it's not forever. It is there till the evolution, the collective evolution is at a certain stage. Overall, collective evolution, maybe there are pockets which are more evolved, or nations, or communities, or regions. Okay, but overall, if we see the Earth, because रहना तो इसी धरती पे you, and now with so much connectedness in the world, and pretend as much as you like, but the fact is that the world is one now. Global village बोलते हैं ना, this is the term that is used. So when it has fulfilled its function, it may well disappear. For if it tries to survive its utility, it will appear as an unrelieved brutality. मैंने यहाँ पे साइड में लिखा हुआ है, Sri Aurobindo himself was a warrior and king in his previous lives. Augustus Caesar, this is one known past incarnation of him. Another one is written by Amal Kiran एक article में, Paris, जो Trojan War के time का. So these are two known. And by the way, and this is a little personal for those who are not personally devoted to Sri Aurobindo, it may not be relevant, but for those who are, it may be. So when the Second World War was going on, okay, and he was in his room, but there were few attendants who could hear his comments, and it is published in the talks with Nirod Baran and the talks with Purani. So he is giving such intuitive military things. He is saying, okay, no, this general should have done like this, the formation should have been like this. So, they were surprised, ki, how come you know so much? You have never fought a war. How come you know? So obviously that knowledge was coming from his past lives as a warrior himself, right? So when it has fulfilled its function, it may well disappear. For if it tries to survive its utility, it will appear as an unrelieved brutality of violence, stripped of its ideal and constructive aspects, and will be rejected by the progressive mind of humanity. But its past service to the race, okay, past service to the race. इसीलिए या कंट्रोल रूम मैंने उस सेंस में बोला था कि when he intervened actively first time at Dunkirk and then whenever needed. So it was a bit of an exaggeration, I should admit. It's not like, he was all the time just focused on that. But yes, he was having exceptional knowledge of military, matlab organization, war, this, that. So that cannot be unless, you have, in this life, he was a politician, but he was not a warrior. So where did all this knowledge of war was coming from? And yeah, so, and will be rejected by the progressive mind, but its past service to the race must be admitted in any reasonable view of our evolution. Service to the race. वही जो मैंने quotation डाला था, and Dhaval bhai put a like on that, कि, until the debt to Rudra is paid, and the lay person, he is waiting for the sword of the prophet. So what about, sword of the prophet, the sword of the hero. The sword of the hero and the word of the prophet. Hero means the Kshatriya. So its past service to the race, it cannot be denied. It must be admitted, right? In any reasonable view of our evolution. Yes, Dhavalji.
Currently, the situation is such that there is a war, multiple types of war, domination by capitalism, then domination by ideology and other things. Now, when such a thing is there and war kind of is looming in the horizon somewhere, but I remember you said it's not possible, but still Gita's view on this would be still the same, right? If we have to fight the war of
Exactly.
capitalism is fine. We can fight by actually
See,
physical means also, but ideology, how do you take a stand on the
by
Gita?
spreading your own ideology. By spreading your own ideology, making it popular.
Yeah, but Sanatan Dharma, that everybody is talking about, and we know that, but not the mass. I don't think so everybody understands. So when you spread your own
They
ideology,
may not understand, okay? They may not have the
huh?
intellectual level to understand, but the
Huh?
evolution of India, okay,
Huh?
especially the Puranic religions
Huh?
and then the Bhakti period and all, it has made sure that right till the village level, the spiritual culture has gone and seeped into the literally the blood and bones of the people. So even if they don't understand the dharma intellectually, they are following it, and they are following it sometimes more religiously than people in the urban or the suburban areas like that. If I understood what you were saying correctly.
Yeah, no, I meant about the current clash, right? By militancy, terrorism, and all. It's at the root is ideology clash, right? So
Yeah, it has to be fought. Whatever measures need
it has to
be
be fought,
taken,
right? Exactly. So
it
then
has to be fought. There is no
then
question about it.
then these peacenikes who are kind of coming in the way should be
Peace,
shut. Peacenikers, these peacemongers, the pacifists, as Sri
that is
Aurobindo calls.
nonsense basically.
Yeah, they are just creating a narrative, it seems then.
Yeah, exactly. Vested interests then. They sold their soul.
Vested interest is
They
the
are
right.
either getting money from these people or in some other way they have sold their soul to such things.
Yeah,
It's उस तरह के
yeah.
peaceful peace mongering का कोई मतलब नहीं है. It's not that we should be a warmonger, but self-defense is the fundamental duty of every human
No,
being.
exactly. That is my stand also.
Yeah.
But how do you defend this argument with them is very difficult. No, it's not easy. They are not going to buy it even in the face of it. No, so how do you preach the Gita? That the Gita, if we say Gita says, they say Quran says. Now, how do you stand against that?
No, you don't teach the Gita that way. I mean, if the person is, one has to have the common sense to see who is open enough to understand these things or not. It cannot be. What you can say good to yourself is that Mother and Sri Aurobindo worked for the descent of something called supermind, and it has descended and it is working. Its pressure is there, and it is the force of the truth. Okay, it is the truth consciousness, and it is working inside everybody, and it will weaken falsehood and it will strengthen truth. So whatever is true, ultimately satyameva jayate. जीत जो है वो सत्य की ही होगी. That is one thing you can think to give yourself hope and faith and solace, that way. Baki, I mean, if you can bring around somebody to this kind of enlightened view of life, then good. Otherwise, let them evolve in their own way. या तो लात पड़ेगी तब सीखेंगे, या जो जैसे भी होगा basically.
Yeah, that is true.
You have to be patient, and it's a difficult phase. I mean, everybody knows. We live in such a world, so connected and everything, but at the same time, so much disconnect also between people. So anyway.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So, who read the first one? Archana ji read. Who will read the next paragraph? Anybody who would like to read? Rupa ji, would you like to read? No. Who would like to read? Arora ji? Madan Gopal ji? कोई बोलता नहीं है. हाँ.
I can read, Anmol.
Please read, Harish. Please.
Physical.
हाँ.
Okay. I think he can start.
हाँ, अरोड़ा जी आप पढ़ लीजिए, कोई भी पढ़ ले.
I am reading.
हाँ, please read.
The physical fact of war, however, is only a special and outward manifestation of a general principle in life. And the Kshatriya is only the outward manifestation and type of a general characteristic necessary to the completeness of human perfection. War typifies and embodies physically the aspect of battle and struggle which belongs to all life, both to our inner and outer living, in a world whose method is meeting and wrestling of forces which progress by mutual destruction towards a continually changing adjustment, expressive
of a progressive.
No, kindly precise
मैंने उसको बड़ा कर दिया to make it easier for you.
towards a continually changing adjustment expressive of a progressive harmonizing and hopeful of a perfect harmony based upon some yet ungrasped potentiality of oneness. The Kshatriya is the type and embodiment of the fighter in man who accepts this principle in life and faces it as a warrior striving towards mastery, not shrinking from the destruction of bodies and forms, but through it all aiming at the realization of some principle of right, justice, law, which shall be the basis of the harmony towards which the struggle tends. The Gita accepts this aspect of the world energy and the physical fact of war, which embodies it, and it addresses itself to the man of action, the striver, and fighter, the Kshatriya. War, which is extreme contradiction of the soul's high aspiration to peace within and harmlessness without the harmlessness
without
the striver and fighter whose necessary turmoil of struggle and action seems to be the very contradiction of the soul's high ideal of calm, mastery, and self-possession, and it seeks for an issue from the contradiction, a point at which its terms meet, and a poise which shall be the first essential basis of harmony and transcendence.
right.
I'm sorry, the font size is too small for me sometimes.
No problem. Next time मैं बढ़ा के रखूंगा. Thank you for the reading. So the physical fact of war, however, is only a special and outward manifestation of a general principle in life. And the Kshatriya is only the outward manifestation and type of a general characteristic, necessary to the completeness of human perfection. So like I had said in the last session, in the Yoga of Self-Perfection, in the Synthesis of Yoga, there is a chapter, the fourfold personality, soul force and the fourfold personality. I had shared the link to that chapter. So therein he describes how in detail, I don't know the number of pages, I don't remember, but how all these four varnas, they need to be integrated into a whole in ourselves, and only when that is done properly, this is what is called actually in the Mother 6th chapter as Maheshwari, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, and Mahasaraswati. So Maheshwari is the Brahmin aspect, Mahakali is the Kshatriya, Mahalakshmi is the Vaishya, and Mahasaraswati is the Shudra, right? And उसमें वो बोलते हैं ना 6th chapter में कि only when these four are perfected and their workings are there perfectly, I'll share that sentence from the mother, can those other rarer powers manifest themselves. Very clear words he says there. So the desired perfection right now is the perfect combination of these four powers in us. There the words that he uses are wisdom, strength, harmony, and perfection. Right? So war typifies and embodies physically the aspect of battle and struggle which belongs to all life. हमने ना आशनाय मृत्यु, hunger, that is death आया था पहले, and the eater eating is eaten, all that basically. Both to our inner and our outer living in a world whose method is a meeting, in a world whose method is a meeting and wrestling of forces which progress by mutual destruction towards a continually changing adjustment, expressive of a progressive harmonizing and hopeful of a perfect harmony based upon some yet ungrasped potentiality of oneness. Quite a complex sentence. Maybe I'll just read this once more so that the meaning becomes more clear. War typifies and embodies physically the aspect of battle and struggle which belongs to all life, both to our inner and our outer living, in a world whose method is a meeting and wrestling of forces, यहाँ से, which progress by mutual destruction, किस तरफ? Towards a continually changing adjustment, expressive. What does that adjustment express? A progressive harmonizing and hopeful of a perfect harmony based upon some yet ungrasped potentiality of oneness. So that oneness is the aim. It is there latent, it is there in potential, but it has not yet been grasped fully. And till the time it is grasped, the aspect of war and all this, mutual, जो भी यहाँ पे word आया था, mutual destruction and all, it will remain. It cannot but be otherwise. Okay, this is essentially what he's saying. The Kshatriya is the type and embodiment of the
Anmol.
character in man. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anmol, this sentence, to better understand it, if you think that in spite of this guidance being given to Arjuna on a battlefield, the fact that the oneness was in present because Sri Krishna was giving him the guidance, till the other party gets decimated. If you see this evolution towards the opposite forces trying to align and coming to a realization of a oneness, it doesn't happen on the other side, therefore they get decimated. Is that the right understanding?
Correct. They are not following dharma. They are, वही जो गीता में दो टाइप के नेचर दिए हैं, the 16th chapter में, the दैवी nature and the asuric nature. So Duryodhana is a representative of the asuric nature, which is basically Rajoguna, and Rajoguna when it becomes violent like that. And obviously the Rajoguna sees things as separate. I do not remember the verse right now. I will share it later on. So that buddhi, that kind of intelligence, नाना भावान पृथक विदान वेत्ति सर्वेषु भूतेषु तज्ज्ञानम विद्धि राजसम. Basically that which sees the पृथकता, the difference, that is the rajasic buddhi. Okay, whereas आप जो बोल रहे हैं oneness, that is the sattvic buddhi, which has the chance of overleaping itself and going to the nirguna. So obviously the opposite party is not they are not having the right idea of dharma and all this. They are not.
Because it says expressive of a progressive harmonizing and hopeful of a perfect harmony based upon some yet ungrasped potentiality of oneness. So had there been that potential realized when they did a compromise, they would have agreed.
Exactly.
But the fact that they stuck on means that they had to get decimated, and therefore oneness is established by the Pandavas.
Exactly. Like I had said last time also, in every avatar time, this accumulation of asuric kshatriya power, whether in the time of Parshuram, 21 times slaughter, okay, or in the time of Rama, all these, demon kings, या वाली को भी जैसे मारा, because he had become tyrannical. I mean, he had basically, made his younger brother's wife his own, and all that kind of thing, which is not on. It was not the example to be set for society at that time. And Ravan ka pura jo sara, and all the other kings. It's not just Ravana whom he killed. Dandakaranya mein, one after the other, he's basically killing the asuras, right? And then again in the time of Krishna, he doesn't go throughout India and kill them. When necessary, he does even that. Okay. But basically, he gathers them all together at one place and finish. जो were too powerful, like Jarasandh, वो किसी के मारे मरता नहीं, so he gets him killed by Bhima in the Malla Yuddha. So it is Krishna's very clear objective to clear the Indian soil of this accumulation of violent Kshatriya power. There is a particular sentence of Sri Aurobindo, notes on the Mahabharat mein hai. If I'll find it, I'll share it. That will make it absolutely clear what was the political objective of Sri Krishna.
But Anmol bhai, but
Yes.
Sri Aurobindo is considered as Kalki avatar, right? And Huh?
Yeah,
No?
yeah. Yeah,
So now my question is, they fought at the world level, right? Because they averted the world wars. Not averted, but world war happened during their times. So at that time, what was getting purified in that terms is just the forces of
the whole of Europe, it was so tyrannical. What were they doing to the colonies?
Colonies, correct. And this Hitler and other because mother took the form of Asura and went there, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
so basically the force of what you call autocracy, then communism is still reminiscent. It's still there, prevalent. However, Russia fell, but that during the but that too later on, right? So my question is,
communism at its root, its idea is actually not bad. जो उसका वो वाला आइडिया है ऑफ इक्वालिटी वाला एंड ब्रदरहुड वाला वो सब जो है दैट इनफैक्ट इफ यू रीड देयर इज अ बुक कॉल्ड वॉर एंड सेल्फ डिटर्मिनेशन ओके दैट इज रिटन इन द आर्या पीरियड सो अबाउट रशिया एंड दैट एक्सपेरिमेंट ऑफ कम्युनिज्म ऑन विच दे हैव launched themselves. He says a great nation has taken a giant step forward. So it was a very bold experiment which they tried, but it failed for the simple reason that none of these external arrangements of society for perfecting it can succeed. The only way in which perfection can come is from within outward. So people have to realize their spiritual oneness. That is how the true oneness and equality and brotherhood and freedom and all those ideals will come. The mistake is to try to fix the outer and to think that the inner will be fixed by fixing the outer. The inner can never be fixed by fixing the outer. This is the problem of, Europe. They think they are, because वो बाह्यमुखी है ना, बहिर्मुखी है. So they think that by making the outward life, organize it better, democracy, ये वो, उसके द्वारा it will never happen. It will never happen. The solution
that's
lies
why
only in the inner development, in the spiritual and
uh,
psychic development. Hans, tell me.
so that is United States of Europe has never happened except for this EU thing which they are doing right now.
Yeah.
But
Do you think that
still,
is because of spiritual
Russia.
oneness? It is not because of
No,
spiritual reasons. It is because of economic reasons.
No. It's not. It's a convenience. Economic convenience.
Economic
Correct.
reasons. We will have once currency which will be solid, which will become powerful, and thereby, we can be a power in the world as a whole.
So do we need one more avatar or what to solve all this?
No, it's not. See, one
How
more
will
avatar
this
means
get all?
Mother ne, since you mentioned Kalki and all that, so Mother also wrote in the Thoughts and Aphorisms wale volume mein, I always used to hear that Sri Aurobindo is the last avatar, and it's just perhaps in a human body. ये हमने अवतारहुड वाली सीरीज में काफी डिटेल में किया, but basically वही, one needs to understand what is meant by that. Wait, one needs to understand what is meant by the supermind, what is meant by the descent and manifestation of the supermind. Okay, it's a power which has been established and it will do its work. वो अपने आप होगा आप सब कुछ. We need to do our bit, of course. We need to become instruments of that power, but that power will make its instruments. वो बनाएगी and it will change people from within. That's what I'm saying. आप जो अवतार की बात कह रहे हैं, I mean, some devotees can come who will be the, जो भी उसका अच्छा इंस्ट्रूमेंट होगा, that person will become a विभूति. Simple. But avatar doesn't come just like that. अवतार का मतलब होता है, the word avatar means, it should not be used casually. Avatar means somebody who adds another step in the ladder of evolution. That has already happened. Sri Aurobindo has already added the step in the ladder of evolution. So then where is the question of another avatar?
Yeah. So that means these minor problems on the way will be tackled by the vibhutis.
Yes.
So minor course corrections, you can say, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And I mean, one should not do too much of India versus West also. I mean, human nature is basically the same everywhere. It's just that India has that accumulated tapasya in its land itself. So here the possibility of people opening to these ideas is greater. Whether they do or not do, that they are left free by the divine.
But it seems now a present situation is such that pockets are just firing up from every single corner of the earth, so that is very unsettling. Anyway,
we should not have this somewhat some occult things also. Okay, necessary.
Well, I have a small
yes, sir.
not point of view, just by, see, Sri Aurobindo has said it even in the other book you have referred, that war and violence and conflicts
हाँ जी,
are perhaps not going to end till the inner transformation takes place.
correct.
And so there we cannot predict. It may be 300 years, it may be 500 years, we can't say that.
Yeah,
It means that the that take place, war is essential. War or conflict or whatever you call
yeah,
it,
it
give
will
it
be
any
there.
name,
It will be there. Yes.
including, see, I think in that book he has referred to that even trades and all that, they will not lead to the harmony.
No, no,
They
nothing.
because the two brothers kill each other. So
Yes,
where is the
yes.
question of
It is
having
only
economic?
the spiritual oneness. Oneness that is based on the realization of the one spirit within everybody. ठीक है? It is only that
Correct. That
which can.
that to make an ordinary human being understand that
You
is
cannot. You cannot. That is
impossible.
why you cannot make him understand. That is why, I mean, since I'm reading Synthesis of Yoga, so I'm referring to it. So, in the second chapter of the Synthesis of Yoga, very clearly he says that right now, the step being done by nature is the evolution of the mental and intellectual life. And by giving equal opportunity of education to everybody, labor saving appliances, this, that, pura wo text hai, I'll share the text. Basically, on the whole, on the large scale, एक रिफाइनमेंट लाया जा रहा है इन द इंटेलेक्ट ऑफ पीपल सो दैट दे कैन थिंक ऑफ द नेक्स्ट स्टेज विच इज द स्पिरिचुअल स्टेज. अभी तो ऑन द होल पहले लोगों को इंटेलेक्चुअली रिफाइन कर रही है नेचर. It is by education and all those. It's a very beautiful paragraph. It helps you understand perfectly why society, on the whole, in the details, is functioning the way it is right now. So you are right. It cannot happen. matlab, It will take a long time. It will take time basically. And we have not to bother about that. We have to, what the Gita teaches. आपका क्या स्वधर्म है? What is your
But
role?
that no, I have no personal.
बस 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 हमें क्या करना है? हमारा मेन कंसर्न वो है.
Point is about all these
Point is,
those peace, international peace and so
yeah,
all
yeah.
that.
See, all these are also helpful in little bit way. I mean, but really जो change आएगा, it has to come by an inner change. And they can help. Outer and inner are not disconnected. So the outer pressure and these kind of measures, they can lead to an inner opening. But जब तक वो नहीं होगा ना, जब तक that introspection is not there. जैसे मैंने, I mean, last to last class में मैं भी बोला था कि वो कोविड जो आया था 2 साल के लिए, okay, it was a kind of, like a house arrest for 2 years for entire humanity. So it was a kind of forced introspection that you go within yourself. I mean, who was left? Nobody was left. Everybody, चाहे कितना बड़ा हो कितना छोटा हो, कोई भी हो. So it was like a kind of 2 years intense yoga that way of the whole earth. Okay, introspect, think deeply. What is this all about? What is the purpose? ये कहाँ जा रहा है ये सब जो इतना तेजी से हम भागने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? All this competition, all this one upmanship, etc. Where is it leading us to? Like that. So, ठीक है. Shall we try to finish this paragraph? We have around 8-9 minutes. May I proceed? Nobody's saying anything. Okay. Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, please proceed.
Okay, sorry. The Kshatriya is the type and embodiment of the fighter in man who accepts this principle in life and faces it as a warrior striving towards mastery, not shrinking from the destruction of bodies and forms. It's not easy not to shrink from the destruction of bodies and forms, but through it all, aiming at the realization of some principle of right, justice, law, which shall be the basis of the harmony towards which the struggle tends. Again, a little longish and complex sentence, but on the whole, I think it is clear. Now, जो contradiction वाला part. The Gita accepts this aspect of the world energy, like he said in one of the earlier paragraphs, that the reason for the survival of the Hindu religion, it was in the previous chapter, is that it has had the courage to see the world as it is and see this aspect and worship the mother not only as Durga but also as Kali when necessary, right? So the Gita accepts this aspect of the world energy and the physical fact of war which embodies it, this energy, and it addresses itself to the man of action, the striver and fighter. Whoever is work oriented, action oriented, and he wants to achieve something, materialize something, I mean, you have to wage, or if not wage, at least engage or participate or not shy away from some kind of battle. It may have different forms, but it will be there. सो यहाँ पे तो खैर बिल्कुल ही फिजिकल वॉर की बात हो रही है गीता, बिकॉज दैट इज द एक्सट्रीम. अगर वो एक्सट्रीम मोस्ट एग्जाम्पल में, दैट इज व्हाई द गीता इज सच अ ग्रेट बुक, दैट इट टेक्स द मोस्ट एक्सट्रीम एग्जाम्पल ऑफ वायलेंस एंड इट रिकनसाइल्स दैट विद स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ. सो बाकी सब तो अपने आप ही हो जाएगा, ऑल एक्शंस व्हिच आर नॉट एज वायलेंट. तत्किम कर्मणि घोरे माम नियोजयसि केशव व्यामिश्रेणेव वाक्येन बुद्धिं मोहयसि भवे. Arjuna says, why are you engaging me in this ghoram karma? Right? So the Gita accepts this aspect of the world energy and the physical fact of war which embodies it, and it addresses itself to the man of action, the striver and fighter Kshatriya. War, which is the extreme contradiction of the soul's high aspiration to peace within and harmlessness without. The striver and fighter, whose necessary turmoil of struggle and action seems to be the very contradiction of the soul's high ideal of calm mastery and self-possession. So on the one hand, the soul's high ideal is, you should have full, complete control over yourself and Jitendriya and this and this. And here is just opposite. You are to gone on such a, spree of violence, mercilessly killing so many hordes of men. How many were there? Akshohini की definition अगर हम Google पे search करें, so 11 Akshohini on the side of this thing, Kauravas, and 7 Akshohini, and finally there were just 10 or 11 people remaining. Huge number basically, goes into lakhs of people, right? And it seeks for an issue from the contradiction, a point at which its terms meet, and a poise which shall be the first essential basis of harmony and transcendence. So the Gita at least accepts it. It tries to solve this apparent contradiction. Ultimately, there is no contradiction because, the divine is in charge of everything, and in the divine, there is no contradiction. We are not yet reached that level of divine consciousness. That's why we find contradiction. But in that total view of things, there is no contradiction. Everything is Him. There is nothing but Him. War is Him, peace is Him, death is Him, life is Him. गीता में आएगा बाद में जाकर के 8th या 9th चैप्टर में. मृत्यु सर्व हरश्चाहम, आई एम मृत्यु जो सबको हर के ले जाता है. Right?
So Anmol, this last line,
Yeah.
the first essential basis of harmony and transcendence,
Hmm.
if you think if Arjuna was a evolved soul and one with the Lord, then this means he would simultaneously experience that it is I who's everybody, and
Yeah.
within that everybody, I am fighting Duryodhan.
Yeah.
And this physical aspect is a conflict within this oneness which is actually happening. So why be bothered?
Yeah.
That would be a realized state, which is the first state, because he's talking about the first essential basis of harmony and trans. So what does it mean by the first? The physical level? Is that what the first indicates?
1 minute. A point at which its terms meet, and a poise which shall be the first essential basis of harmony and transcendence. 1 second. The Gita accepts this world, blah blah, whose necessary turmoil seems to be the very contradiction of the soul's high ideal. A poise which shall be the first essential basis of harmony and transcendence. Basically, I think he's referring to the Brahman consciousness, wherein you are poised, matlab you are equal जिसको इक्वालिटी बोलते हैं ना, दैट समता वाली स्टेट. सो यू काइंड ऑफ transcend this kind of contradiction, and you function from a very neutral and impersonal kind of poise. I think that is what it means. That is the
Yeah,
first
because see,
like
I'm
when
just reading what you had shared,
yeah
because the first in the 3 steps, if you see, then it completely aligns up, because it says the first, by the renunciation of desire and a perfect equality, works have to be done as a
yeah
sacrifice by man as the doer,
yeah
a sacrifice to a deity who is the supreme and only self, through by him not yet realized in his own being.
do by
So
him.
this somehow leads to this first step. I thought I'll ask you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and that first step leads to that kind of condition wherein you don't think that you are the doer. You're kind of equal. So, in a sense, you transcend these contradictions. And
Right.
यहाँ पे first essential basis and a poise which shall be the first essential basis of harmony. गीता का जो first poise है, that is that only, what is called Brahmi Sthiti. That is what it is basically. You are equal and you do it very impartially. Whatever happens through you, you let it happen through you in a very impartial way. You are equal in victory and defeat. You are equal in pain and pleasure. All that, basically, that equality. I think that is what is meant. Sthita pragya.
Right.
That is the Gita's word.
Anmol,
Yes, sir.
Anmol,
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
have a small, don't laugh at, don't
Nahin,
laugh
what is
at the
there? We are
question.
all fellow students here. What is there?
I have asked some people, but I did not get the right answer. Right means I did not get the answer. After all, 18th chapter, when he says, I will do whatever you say, and then he fights the battle, did he fight in the spirit which Sri Krishna gave him? And but there is another
No, he
anecdote
did
in
not. No, he did not. Because when he is asked to kill Pitama, he is not able to. He is again overpowered by emotions and all. And then Krishna has to break his vow and he has to
So-
take the Sudarshan Chakra and threaten Pitama.
No, that of course one can interpret in a different manner. That
No, but Arjuna was not able to do, na? He was not able to do
no,
the.
but at that time he was losing to be.
That's okay, but still, I mean, he was emotional and he was not able to.
Bhishma. See, this was the fight between the Bhakta and the divine.
Yeah.
Between Bhishma
नहीं,
and
मैं
Krishna.
वो नहीं कह रहा हूँ,
Nothing-
but I am saying that
nothing to do with Arjun.
Arjuna was not. You are also right that Pitama was too strong, and
I'm not looking at that. I am
he was
looking
not
at-
able to. He was not able to be in that poise. आप देखिए उसमें he becomes so emotional during the
नहीं.
war and Abhimanyu के death के time पे
No, but
he takes this vow.
but he did not give up the war after Abhimanyu's death.
He did not give up
He
the
could have
war.
given.
मैं आपकी
so-
बात समझ रहा हूँ. But the poise that Sri Krishna is telling him to keep in the Gita, he loses that poise. He's not able to maintain that poise.
All right,
Well,
okay.
of course,
Then
it
I
is
can.
unreasonable to expect.
It's only hypothetical. I
Yeah,
know.
Yeah.
But Arjun in Mahabharata later on, after the Mahabharata war, at some stage, if it is an interpolation, I don't know. Arjun seeks Sri Krishna again, that kindly teach me the Gita which
Yeah,
you gave me in the battlefield.
Yeah.
He says, you are a fool. You don't remember it.
Yes, correct. And he says, I cannot repeat it. उसका मुझे केवल आधा श्लोक याद है. परम ही ब्रह्म कथितम योग युक्तेन तन्मया. This Krishna says, ये संपत जी ने सिखाया था ये श्लोक. So, the Gita was spoken by me in a state of union in yoga with the Param Brahman. So basically, it's not that at your demand or at your request, I can again go into that state of union in yoga with the Param Brahman. It cannot be done on demand. So I will tell you something basically, but that's what called Anu Gita. The Gita that follows the Gita. Anu का मतलब होता है follow करना. So yes, you are right. Arjuna does forget, and I mean he is scolded by Krishna in 1 or 2 verses and like that. Gita, even this Gita for that matter, because they were very friendly terms, ना? आप देखिए कृष्णा सबसे पहले he scolds him very badly that do not behave like a klebe. Klaibyam masmagamah partha. just imagine ki a hero and kshatriya like Arjuna to be called a napunsak. I mean, it would, ये तो इतने fiery लोग होते थे, they will just take their sword out and cut the head of the other fellow if they heard such a thing. So, yes, Dhavalji.
Hey, my question is, if Sri Krishna was an avatar, he could have easily gotten into that state and told no. I mean, just again a hypothetical question, but
Again,
avatars
okay,
have the
Avatar,
power,
Avatar
no?
also,
Avatar.
you are right, you are right. Then for that matter, Sri Aurobindo could have prevented the partition, he could have done anything, isn't it? ऐसा नहीं होता है. Avatar does not release all his omnipotence. He releases omnipotence in packets, as much as the earth can take, basically. This is what I have understood from the study of the Avatarhood booklet, that
Acha,
Avatar does not release
acha.
all his omnipotence at once.
Mhm.
He follows the rules of the evolution. He does follow them.
Because these are all logical mind questions, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why it
yeah.
is
Yeah,
asking
yeah.
them.
Yeah, yeah. Sri Aurobindo says, for
Uh,
example, that I have never released the unconditioned supramental force. Now, obviously, I'm going into the domain of pure integral yoga. Okay? He says, I am released
Acha.
the supramental force as conditioned by the overmind. You will find these in his letters of the 30s and 40s. So why, you
Oh.
can ask why he was knowing. I'll tell you why. Truth born too soon might break the imperfect earth.
Okay.
That's it.
So it's interesting. Other aspect is in the whole process, the human freedom is paramount.
Exactly. Yathechasi
That
tatha kuru.
as an omnipotence, he could do anything, anytime.
That's what he says
So
to
why
Arjuna. ये
wait for
last में जो
5,000
गीता के आता है ना, it is unbelievable. The Lord himself, with all the omnipotence at his disposal and everything, having given such a long lecture, what does the last thing he say? Yathechasi tatha kuru. Do as you like. There is full freedom. Full freedom.
No, Aurora. Also, Aurora ji, you make a lot of sense because I think freedom is paramount. Because otherwise,
Mother
the
and Sri
human race
Aurobindo
will
in
collapse.
this ashram, I mean, Sri Aurobindo ashram in Pondicherry, I'm coming here for longer periods since 2010. The amount of freedom that is given to people, it is to be seen, to be believed. Unbelievable. I can't believe that so much freedom can be given to people to evolve like this. But why, what you do with that freedom. So the divine does not impose. The mother में भी आता है. The supreme does not, the supreme
The first
demands your
chapter,
surrender to her, but does not impose it.
impose it.
You
Yeah,
are
you are
free
free to
at
take it.
every
Yeah,
moment
to
to
recall, recall,
recall your sacrifice for the
sacrifice,
self-giving if you are ready to have the spiritual consequence.
spiritual consequence, ready to bear the
Yes,
spiritual
ready to
consequences.
give. I'll share the exact words. So
Yeah.
that is so.
Interestingly, Anwar,
We have overshot the
interestingly,
time, but those who want to leave can
all right,
drop
sure.
off. If those who
No,
want
no,
to
it's okay.
continue, it's already 9:08. Yeah. Yes, sir. अरोरा जी आप कुछ कह रहे थे? नहीं. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
अच्छा. ठीक है. So we'll close with silence.
Yeah.
The interesting part is on
हाँ.
one, because
हाँ.
we expect, for me, all the time miracles should happen.
Yes.
I need not
Yes.
be called to take
Yes.
any or exercise my freedom, perhaps.
अच्छा, वो जो क्वेश्चन पूछा था किसी ने कि why Krishna could not go into that Parabrahman again. So Sri Aurobindo has a sentence there. 1 minute,
Acha.
please wait 1 minute. So the Gita says Krishna was spoken in a state of supernormal consciousness, which he lost immediately afterwards.
Which he lost. Okay.
Immediately afterwards. So when he spoke the Gita, during that time he went into a supernormal consciousness. So even in Krishna's life as an avatar who was embodying the overmental consciousness, it was like a spike in the graph of that life. It was not normal. The Gita says Krishna was spoken in a state of supernormal consciousness, which he lost immediately afterwards. ये वो अनुभूति नहीं आता होगा.
No, but it will lead to another question.
Yes.
Did he do it by design?
Of course. उसका भी आगे श्री अरविंद ने लिखा हुआ है. Because then there was something else that he needed to teach to Arjuna.
All right.
He just give them the Brahma Gyan and the Adhyatma Gyan of the Gita. और भी तो चीजें सिखाते हैं ना उसमें. महाभारत में there is a lot of practical wisdom also and other things. मेरे को वो उतना पता नहीं है. I don't know the text. But शिवानंद के लेटर में यही लिखा because he wanted to teach something else. Of course, it is by design. There is no question of it not being by design. It is by design. And actually, I think the answer is as much as the earth can take. अभी आप एक बात बताइए, अगर एसेज ऑन द गीता नहीं हो, ठीक है, हाउ मेनी पीपल हैव रियली अंडरस्टूड द गीता? 5000 ईयर्स हो गए हैं, समझ में आई किसी को? Even the essays on the Gita in one reading or two readings, you can't really grasp properly. So, it's a very, very high pitch basically. Our normal consciousness is quite, मतलब ordinary level पे रहती है. तो उसको pull करके उस divine के level पे रखना, it's a strain on the human consciousness, basically. Anyway, so shall we silence?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.